Hello, and welcome back to the Stiles Manufacturing Solutions online event. My name is Gary Wernlund, Sales Manager for Office Furniture Manufacturing. I've worked with Stiles over 30 years, and it's my pleasure to host this virtual seminar. It's day 2 of our 3-day event, focusing on some of the biggest challenges impacting our industry. Today, you'll hear from real manufacturing experts. They're industry leaders from the Detroit metro area. And each of these people are likely experiencing the same challenges you're facing today. The event is live and we want to hear from you. So stay alert for interactive polling features included throughout the series where your feedback will help shape our conversations. And join us at the end of today's session for a live question and answer period as well. Today, we'll think people. We'll talk about strategies for filling your open positions, training and retaining employees, and sustaining growth with your workforce. Throughout this series, I've been joined by some experts from Stiles Machinery. Today, I'm happy to welcome Thomas Allott, manager of Stiles University. Thomas, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
Today's program focuses on what many see as the most frustrating challenges in the manufacturing industry. Thomas, you recently sat down with some manufacturers to discuss current trends and workforce challenges. Tell us just a little bit to start about those conversations.
Yeah, Gary. So we had a really good opportunity to go to the Metro Detroit area to visit one of our customers, JB Cutting. The reason I wanted to go visit JB is they're an extremely progressive company. They're a family-owned company that they're in their second generation of ownership right now. And Deb at the helm has really been forward-thinking in the way that they're approaching their manufacturing, but also their people.
Yeah, and I think they're a great example. We have representatives in our audience from various parts of the industry and various parts of the country. Mm-hmm. We had early on we had discussions from the Southeast region in Georgia. Now we're in the Midwest here, and we'll even have some input in the next couple of days from the West Coast as well. And this is not the challenge with labor and such is not a regional challenge.
No, absolutely
it's definitely a widespread item. So let's start the conversation by addressing how to fill open positions. Here's what our guests had to say.
You know, if I had to pick our biggest challenge to growing the business, I'd say it's a simple one, it's labor. Right now, we've got a lot of good equipment in this building. We've spent a lot of capital growing us from an equipment side, getting skilled, trained people to run them. I could put a second shift on today if I had good people to run the machines. And that's what's preventing us from really growing the way we want to go is getting those skilled workers in the building. Over the past couple of years, what's the hardest position we've had to fill? You know, I would honestly say it's that entry-level general labor position. The trimming, the cleaning, the handling of the parts, those are the hardest ones to fill. We call those the proving grounds for us. If you come in here as a trimmer and you showed hard work and dedication, you're going to make it throughout the business. I can teach you to do other things. But if you can get through that grind, it's a grind, that daily grind we talk about, coming in and moving 1,000 pieces a day and trimming 1,000 pieces a day, it's hard to maintain people at that high level of manufacturing. So, you know, keeping them, once they're here and they can prove that they're dedicated, they're an easy fit to go run a router or go, you know, teach to run the saw. They've got to make it through that proving ground. Strategically, how do we deal with the labor shortage in the industry right now? You know, it's this whole, and I hate to use the pandemic as an excuse, but it's almost like an all bets are off kind of mentality. Things that we took for granted in labor a year ago or a year and a half ago have basically been thrown out the window. Yeah. So we have to get a whole lot more creative about how we think as employers, how we think as leaders, and how we manage the employees on the floor. You know, I'm a pretty old school guy, and I've been learning a lot in how to manage now versus how we managed just simply 2 years ago, and what we look for in an employee, and opening my mind to training and giving people opportunities that 18 months ago I wouldn't even have thought about giving an opportunity to, because the difference in the workforce. And I think it's really paid off for us. We've encountered some great people that may not have had an opportunity here 2 years ago just because they didn't have experience in woodworking or they didn't have experience with a machine. But what we ended up finding out was that, you know, these are great people to have. They're dedicated employees. We can teach them to do a lot more, and I think that's opened our eyes from a leadership perspective on what it's like to deal with the workforce today.
Social media has helped us find new employees by portraying our plant, showing our work facility as the bright, well-lit, fun, technologically advanced place that it really is. We can show this on LinkedIn. People can see it, they can see what we do, how we do it, smiling faces, and that's helped us obtain some new employees. And when they hit the door during their interview, they already know a little bit about JB Cutting. So I think the younger generations, like the millennials, honestly, I think they are just Googling us. They may be looking for a company in the area in Mount Clemens, Michigan. So where my focus has been on the social media to, you know, gauge their opinion of JB Cutting, it's really been about fun. It's been about making posts that I think will appeal to a wide generation of people, whether it's a boomerang of our press flipping back and forth, if it's me jumping on a countertop, demonstrating strength. They see that, they know we're forward thinking, they know this is a great place to work. It's really about making someone feel heard. When I started at JB Cutting 20 years ago, I didn't have a career path. I came here because my friends owned the business. They asked me if I would be interested. I really found a home here. I felt heard. I felt like my ideas were implemented. It was a large enough company, but a small enough company where I felt like I could make a difference. And that's really what I'm trying to portray in social media, to try and get some of the great people that I know are out there to come here and work.
That was some great feedback to get us started. And that triggers our first polling question. Again, we want to hear from you. So please answer this question. If you're responsible for hiring employees, what is your hardest position to fill? The options are entry-level, machine operators, office personnel, or maintenance and management. We might remind the people, Thomas, that office personnel can also include people, for example, who are responsible for data and,
Yep.
and IT and things of that sort.
Yeah, absolutely.
The polls yesterday really helped us to get a feel for the challenges that the manufacturers are facing.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting today too, right on the first poll, I think, to get a test. Any insights, any thoughts you have?
I'm actually really interested in this poll. One of the reasons I'm interested is we've got audience members tuning in from all over the country and even all over North America. So if you're in a rural area, it might be harder to find that more advanced person. And if you're in a metropolitan area, it might be harder to find that lower skilled labor, right? Yeah. A lot more competition in a metropolitan area. So I'll be interested to see what our numbers come back in a little bit.
Also, the combination of automation and people, we talked about that yesterday. We'll be talking about it again on day 3 tomorrow. But it's always an interesting combination because we know the machines don't run themselves. We have to have data for machines. We have people to troubleshoot and manage the technology, so to speak. So it should be interesting. So here we have the results back. What is the hardest position for our people online to fill? A pretty even split, interesting, between entry-level positions and machine operators. On down from there, 14% at office personnel, 8% at maintenance and management. Mm-hmm. So by far the major areas filling entry-level positions and filling machine operators. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me that much. One of the things that Jason had mentioned is that entry-level position is always the hardest to find, right? I think he called it the gauntlet. If I can get someone to go through a gauntlet of a month of doing hand or manual labor, then I'm able to fill them and grow them into a potential machine operator, so forth and so on.
Yeah, and different difficult dynamics in the labor market today. I mean, right now as we're transitioning and so on. So yeah, this is a significant topic. So Thomas, let's talk about some things that might help our people online. And so one of the basic questions I have is, what types of people should our customers, the people, be looking for? Is it should they have certain attributes that they're looking for as they look for machine operators and entry-level positions?
Yeah, I think traditionally, right, we've always looked for, if we lose a team member, say they leave our corporation, we want to find a puzzle piece that's going to be that exact same fit, right? We want to find that person. With the competitive job market, we have to expand that reach now, right? So what you should be looking for in that interview process is, are they a good person to start with, right? Do you connect with them? Do you get a good feeling from them? Do they show drive, right? Asking certain questions to show if they're determined to stay at your company, to grow within your company. And last but not least, don't look for someone with just woodworking experience, right? Look for someone that's worked in the plastics industry or the metals industry or even the granite industry, which I know Jason came from. Those are skilled laborers that we want to bring into the woodworking industry.
Yeah, good points. So another basic question is so how do they find those good people?
Yeah, there's a few different pools, if you want to call them that, that we can look into. The biggest one is going to be the young generations coming through, right? And so what we want to do is we want to reach out to our local schools. There's a thing every October, it's the first Friday of October, every single year. It's called Manufacturing Day. So Manufacturing Day is when companies are encouraged to open up their facilities and show these high schoolers or these middle schoolers what they do. There could be a student that's a little bit lost on their path of where they want to go. Do they want to go to college or do they want to go straight into the industry after? Showing them what's available is a great step into getting that next employee in.
Yeah, Thomas, I think it's real interesting for those of us who have been in the industry for a long time too. If we think about how we got here, we had some exposure and we had some invitation. Someone somehow got the information out to us about the industry, and it was a great invitation and a great opportunity.
Yeah, the other pool that we need to start looking into is our military veterans, right? People leaving the military. There's around 200,000 military veterans leaving the military each year, and a lot of them don't have direction on where they need to go. They also have been traveling their entire lives. So if you are in one of those rural communities, if you can find a veteran that maybe will transfer from California to Idaho or to Michigan or wherever you might be located, that's a really good pool. They're very talented, very disciplined, and they want to work.
Yeah, and we want to support that group of people, obviously.
100%.
Too. Thomas, one other thing that's changed so dramatically from the time I entered the industry to today is social media. 100%. So the question is, what's the impact of social media on searching for employers?
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Gary. Do you have a social media platform of choice?
I'm an Instagram guy.
Okay, Instagram. I'm a LinkedIn guy. I like being on LinkedIn, right? Majority of us have either a smartphone or a tablet, and we're always connected. It's very rare that we're not connected to Wi-Fi or to a cellular network. So if we want to find something, the first thing we do is what? We Google it, right? We look it up. Well, what that's doing is if an employee or a future employee is looking for a job, that's their first impression. So if you don't have your website set up or your Instagram in your case or your LinkedIn, that's the first impression they're getting. So they may not proceed to apply for the positions available on your website if they don't get that good first impression.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now on the reverse side, from an employer standpoint, we need to be active on those platforms. So platforms such as LinkedIn or Glassdoor, those are great places to look for pools of candidates. They have great filters that allow you to search for certain skills or certain locations. But the social aspect is not just person to person anymore, right?
Right.
It's a smaller world.
Well, and presenting your company too, also oftentimes the first impression that people get of your company is what they see on social media.
100%. Right? Yeah, absolutely.
So we've talked about how to attract employees, and let's explore next the process of training those employees. The industry term we use most often is called workforce development. It's often hard to justify an investment in training. We hear people often say, what happens if I train someone and they just leave my company a month later? But the better question might be, what if you don't train them and they stay? So let's hear again from our friends at JB Cutting on this topic.
So the first day that someone starts here, they get a plant tour. whether it's with me or with Debbie or with Jason, our VP of Ops. They get to know the business right off the bat. The next step for them is working, is training, getting work instructions. As you move up the ladder, we have stand-up meetings every day, whether it's the nested-based router team, whether it's my order processing team, the 5-piece team. Every day there's a meeting, you know what's going on. Every Friday, the team leads meet along with certain people in the executive team. Once a month, the executive team meets in order to facilitate process planning, just an overview of the business in general. So really, it's all about one-on-one. It's about mentorship. It's about being a good leader, recognizing potential, and getting the right person in the right position.
We've got a skill set gap that's created by bringing people in, and how we adjust to fill that skill set gap is we've got a lot of knowledge in the company. And the ownership grew up in this business. Debbie and BJ have spent 30 plus years from the time they were kids learning every aspect of this business. We've got a couple of very long-term employees who've done everything here. I've got a team lead who can run every machine in the building and repair them. That's an incredible amount of knowledge. And how we get that knowledge disseminated to the workforce and to the people who are coming in that have never seen a router or edge bander or a saw in their life, that's really important. So we hold things like quality clinics, we hold things like manufacturing days where we train employees, and we take all that knowledge that's built up in our key leadership and let them teach, not just manage. So we ask them to come out and dedicate time on the floor 2 days a week, 2 hours a day. Okay, Debbie, I want you to go work with our QC people and educate them on what's the cause of what's going on with this, and let's try and drive those back out of the process. Or BJ, who loves to just make sawdust, get out there and teach our team lead everything you need to know about batching and nesting and why it's important. And the more we drive that into the workforce, it's just going to help retain those employees, and then they're going to feel like they're part of the team, and what they're doing is meaningful rather than just pushing a button and making a door or a drawer front.
So one way we try to retain top talent or even general labor positions is that we try to engage the employee and let them know what's going on as much as possible. I have no problem with anybody, from somebody who's emptying the garbage all the way up through, my director of finance. Come to us with ideas and ways to improve our business. And we have, in the last 2 years, we've started daily stand-up meetings. So every employee is engaged with their team lead or an owner or a director of some level is at these meetings periodically. So if an employee says, hey, this hasn't worked on my machine for months and the team lead hasn't done anything, there's usually another higher up person at those meetings where they can, oh, okay, let me make sure this gets done. Let me make sure this is happening. So we really try to engage the employees in everything that we're doing, and then filter it down to even the people that are emptying the garbage or doing the entry-level positions. I think that's one way that people like to be heard, and they like to know that when they do talk, you're listening and things are happening. They don't always happen quickly. We've been talking about a profit share program for 5-6 years, but it never got started. We either weren't profitable or didn't have the right types of people in the right positions. And last year was the first year we put money into everybody's profit share, and we made noise about that. We said, great job last year, here's money, this is going into your retirement. So we're trying to take care of our employees, because we know Social Security might not be there, people aren't investing on their own, they're relying on somebody to help them. So if we can help them and invest in their future, hey, if every year we can do this, then that's $3,000-$4,000 in your retirement account that could grow. So you can retire from JB Cutting when you're ready. So those are ways we try to retain people, is just, if you want to be heard, we're listening. Help, we want to grow, and we need the people to do it.
Clearly, employee training is vital to overcoming obstacles and ensuring long-term success, but that training can manifest itself in many ways. Let's start a conversation about internal training opportunities, and we want to hear from you, our audience, on this. So the poll question is, do you have a structured or planned cross-training model for your business? The answer is simple, yes, no, or we give you a third option, kinda. Do you have a structured cross-training model for your business?
Yeah.
Thomas, I think you're the one who probably put the kinda in
Yeah.
there for a reason.
Yeah, of course. I think some people have training programs somewhat, but it's not intentional, right? The thing with having a structured or a planned cross-training program is we want to be intentional. We want to plan this. And so that's why we threw the kinda in. And if I were to guess, I would guess majority of people are fitting in that kinda time frame.
Yeah, we don't sway their votes, but I'm with you too. I think it's one of those things too. It takes a certain discipline to establish a plan and then to stick with it, right? You have things that happen with personnel. Some of them you expect to happen, some are unexpected.
Absolutely.
And to stay the course, I think just to have the discipline to stay with a good plan is key.
Yeah, I think the big thing, right, is making time for that, right? Time is the most expensive thing in the world because we don't have enough of it, right? And so taking time to make that plan and taking a step back from our day-to-day businesses or plans, sorry, and putting that time into people investment and cross-training is where this is going to go.
Good. Looks like we have our answers back. So do you have a structured or planned cross-training model for your business? 48% fell in the kinda, 42% flat out say no.
Yes.
Only 10% of the respondents have a plan. And Thomas, why do you think that is? We'll talk in more detail, but why do you think?
Again, I think it goes back to the intentionality and the time aspect, right? We get caught up in the technology and the processes and dealing with customer service, right? We have customers to take care of at the end of the day, but we don't dedicate that time to invest into our people to cross-train them.
And I've heard also too, it's a bit of a question of cost, and they talk about the cost of training, but they also, the challenges, you talk about the cost of ignorance, right? You have a person trying to do a job that they're not prepared to do, and that can be extremely costly too. So let's go back to JB Cutting and a couple of examples of them. It's clear they've invested in technology, but they're also investing in a positive work environment. Why do you think that's significant, not only for them, but for others?
I think it's positive from a personnel aspect, right? You have to make sure that the work environment is comfortable for that employee. If they're comfortable, they want to come to work, and when they come to work, they're happier and they dedicate themselves to their trade, right? And when they dedicate themselves to the trade, the productivity and the quality goes up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about improving employee satisfaction. What are some things they might consider or they might do?
Yeah, I think there's many things that we can do when we talk about employee satisfaction. And when we talk about employee satisfaction, simple things such as being a bit flexible with our employees and offering them different types of either incentives or working hours or even technology helps us kind of navigate that aspect.
Okay.
Go down a second.
So getting started on a training program, Thomas, too, is one of the things that can be really challenging too. How do we help people get started?
One thing that I would say is you need to focus on if someone were to leave your business tomorrow, where would that biggest hole be, right? What would be the hardest position to fill? And start there and start cross-training either a person that is just below their position so that they're becoming comfortable with it. And then once you've got that cross-training started, it allows you to have a bit more freedom to start cross-training down the ladder, if you will. So we're cross-training A to do B's job. We're cross-training B to do C's job. So if B leaves, we can easily move A into that position, which is usually a higher skilled position, and then we can easily replace that A position.
Thomas, what I think is really interesting about that strategy too is it's not only addressing the day-to-day needs if someone is missing to have someone fill in, but it's talking about in the future, and the future comes faster than we all expect it to. So I think to be prepared with personnel in the future that are trained and are moving in that direction.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about the workplace environment and some of those things. In fact, the people at JB Cutting will talk about that too. So training lays a great foundation. It shows employees that they're worthy of investment, but workforce development is not just an investment, it's a mindset. It requires buy-in from all levels of employees and the establishment of an accepted workplace culture. The buzzword we use to describe this is employee retention. Let's go to the video and see how this can be achieved.
You know, I look at it as second generation business. Can we get it to the third and the fourth generation? And the only way you're going to do that is to keep thinking into the future and keep changing yourself, changing the business and making it not necessarily sustainable, but also at the same time being able to adapt to different people and processes, and it's all about the change. You have to be willing to change.
You know, one of the things I discovered during the COVID and the pandemic, we didn't have people here, and you know, the management team had to go out on the floor. We had to do a lot of the work, and I discovered quickly just how difficult a lot of the jobs are in this facility, and how much it, you know, at the end of a long day, how wore out you are. So I think it's for us being able to make the job easier for the people that work for us and have them enjoy the job that they're doing. A lot of the stuff that gets done here with trimming and moving of materials and cleaning are repetitive, kind of just mundane jobs, and it's hard to stay motivated after a 10-hour day of doing that. And the more we can automate that, the more we can use material handling, the more we can use robots, the more we can use, you know, labeling and good visual management in that process, the happier my workforce is going to be, and the better they're going to be, the better our quality is going to be. We're going to be on, you know, it all spins into this, you know, ultimate goal at the end, but the automation is key to that, and I think it's really important for us to go there.
So we've really been challenged with the generational gap. I mean, even though I'm in a generation that's different than my parents, I still feel like I followed their generation just because of the way I was brought up. Their values, how they work, that's me, that's my brother, that's Jason. So now we find it very difficult to put aside how we've grown up and how we've run the business to somebody new coming in, that they're different. It's not bad, it's just different than what we're used to. So some of the things that we've been challenged with and had to accommodate were flexible schedules. It seems to me that the workforce or the generations coming up now, they like that flexibility. We used to be very rigid. Everybody starts at 7, everybody leaves, the whistle blows at 3:30, everybody's out at 3:30, there might be some overtime, and oh, by the way, you work every Saturday. That's gone. We have to be very flexible in what we do. So we have staggered hours. You know, some people like to start at 8 and work till later in the evening. Some people like to sleep in and come in at noon and work later hours. So we accommodate schedules is one way. You know, the technology. We didn't grow up with technology at our fingertips. The generations coming up now, they have information at their fingertips and they're used to that. So when you say, put your cell phone away, you're at work or you're in your workstation, they freak out. They think you've just taken something so precious away from them that they can't live without it. And so we've had to, okay, allow cell phones on the shop floor, allow headphones or earbuds on the shop floor. And at first it was hard. We all had to like bite our tongue walking through the shop, but we found in the last year, people are more productive. If you allow them to not abuse it and pay attention, you know, wear one earbud, okay, have your cell phone but not be checking messages all day long. They're happier. They like that interaction of being able to be connected to their devices. So, you know, we try to bend the rules a little bit and be more forgiving, and attendance and on time, and it's just different. And like we look at it now, as long as we can get the work done, we have a happy workforce, everybody works in harmony, okay, so we can't be the old school way of get here at 7, leave at 3:30, no cell phones, no interaction with people, no talking, just head down. We have to be more forgiving.
You know, as we diversify our workforce, you know, I think it's important for us to show the intent to the employees that we're open to changes, we're open to having things different within the organization. Being a woman-owned organization with Debbie at the head, it's important to her, therefore it's important to the whole organization. I think if the top-down is driving that mentality, the employees see that, and it just creates a better atmosphere for everybody within the organization. We have a great router operator that we brought into the business. Her name is Nikki. She educated herself in CNC manufacturing. She cut metal before she got here, and when she applied, you know, those things stood out on her resume, and she's done a great job of working her way through each of these operations in the business. And she started out cleaning, and she was willing to get her foot in the door and prove to us that she was ready to handle a big router. And she was very tenacious. She was on me all the time about her skill set and what she had going on. And fortunately, being a woman-owned business and having Debbie as the president, we can set great examples for the people that are coming in the business, and they really pay off.
So we're always trying to improve, always trying to make the process more efficient. And we feel those improvements that we make, or investments in equipment or ergonomic type things, retain our employees. You know, it used to be where you'd have to hand lift, get somebody hand lift boards onto a machine. Well, you know, people just, they had to stop what they were doing, they had to come help somebody, and then they lost their momentum. And so we feel that if an employee comes to us, or we see there's a gap where, you know, that might assist somebody better, they wouldn't have to work as hard. You know, if you're lifting boards all day long and you can streamline that process for them, then they go home happier, not as tired, they could be more efficient. So we're always looking at ways to find automation, or even as simple as mats or something at their workstation that they don't have to work as hard. Move a bench in front of them so they don't have to walk as far. You know, we look at the process and think, how will this benefit the employee being happier, being less tired, and also being more efficient so that we can get more throughput through our equipment. So that's how we kind of look at improvements and retaining employees.
We heard a number of obstacles to change in that clip, but I want to ask you, our viewers, what is your company's biggest obstacle to change? The poll question should now be on your screen. Maybe that obstacle is generational differences, an unpredictable economy, or the evolution of trends and technology. Thomas, another interesting poll.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And one thing that I love about this poll question is that there's some things on the screen that we can control and some things that we can't, right? When it comes to generational differences, we can try to change as much as possible and control it. The economy is a hard thing. We can't predict the economy, as we've all experienced over the past year. And then the new trends in technology, as we talked about with cell phones, right? Things are changing so fast now that we're all trying to keep up and keep our businesses running at the same time.
Yeah, I think it'll be quite interesting too, because a lot of us who came into the industry a number of years ago are kind of on a wave that's going to be retiring in the next 5 years. Among the office furniture companies, for example, in their skilled trades, for example, there was a great influx because the industry was growing dramatically 25 years ago, for example, and now a number of people will be moving out. So you combine that fact with the technology in their plants increasing, and the need for some really top-notch skilled tradespeople is a great challenge. That's one example.
Yeah, no, I don't think the office furniture people are alone, right? This industry is growing, and as you said earlier, it's getting faster, right? It's still a younger industry where we can get more people into it. The technology is growing very, very fast. So getting those younger people in is going to be very, very important.
Yeah. Yesterday on our segment, we talked a bit about the new positions that are developing where people are managing technology.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could be managing the data, they could be managing the production floor or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's not so much loading parts into a machine
Yeah.
as the need and the opportunity is more in that area. So we have our results back. The biggest obstacle that most of our people online are facing as far as change goes is generational differences.
Yeah.
53%, so more than half the respondents said that. The other two pretty evenly split between the economy and technology.
Yeah.
So Thomas, generational differences too. What stirs in your thoughts when you hear that?
Those darn millennials, right?
Yeah.
I mean, right? It's easy to point the fingers. You've got the millennial generation growing now. By 2030, they're going to make up 75% of our workforce, which is kind of crazy to think about. I am a millennial, so I'm already here. And then the Gen Z generation is right behind them. So I'm not surprised that that is the #1 answer, to be honest.
Yeah, quite interesting. So we're talking about, as we move into this segment, we were talking about some practical changes maybe that people can make, companies can make to kind of improve that whole development for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one really interesting point from the video, right, was Deb and Jason talking about their integration of personal technology, not just machines, but cell phones and AirPods and things like that into the day-to-day business. And I think that's something that we have to learn to manage, right? One of my favorite stories that I've heard from a customer was they had the same problem. Individuals were using their cell phones at the machine, not paying attention, a board would fly off, something like that. What they did is they painted a square on the ground, a little bit away from the machines, and said, this is a designated cell phone area. If you want to use your cell phone, go stand in the area and then go back to your job. Their safety issues went down, their quality went up because they integrated it into their business.
Okay, I love the comment too about one AirPod, for example.
Yeah.
You know, it's like those of us who ride bikes too. We know it's not necessarily
Absolutely.
safe to ride with two,
Yep.
but if you ride with one, you can maintain, you know, you're in contact with the things that are going on around with you besides enjoying it yourself.
Well, it helps you keep that beat, right? It helps you keep the consistency of your work.
Yeah, another practical example.
Another thing that I think is very important as well is incentivizing training programs. So we've talked a little bit about cross training. Well, what's going to drive someone to want to do that cross training and look towards the future? And the way that I look at it is, Gary, you fly a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Are you a member's member? Are you a gold member?
I'm a gold, gold status.
So you're a gold, but you earned that, right? And how did you earn it?
In time,
right?
In time, lots of miles.
Lots of miles, lots of time and investment. We have to treat our people the exact same, right? We have to incentivize them, whether that's a pay increase or whether that's a title change. If we're asking them to invest additional time and brain capacity at that point, then we have to find a way to incentivize them to want to do it.
Yeah, different things motivate people, and we have to think about their motivations and their encouragement to step up and go forward.
Absolutely.
So on a slightly different topic, but I think an important one,
Yep.
Why should business owners be concerned about the diversity of their workforce?
Yeah, one thing that I loved about JB Cutting was the diversity of their workforce. And the important factor there is by having different minds, different people from different backgrounds, brings different skill sets, right? When you have different skill sets, say if you come up to a troubleshooting issue or you need some ingenuity, those different backgrounds and different skill sets help you accomplish those things a lot faster. And in the end of the day, what we're trying to do is either one, stay in production, right?
Yep.
Or two, make more money. That's where that comes into play.
So far, we've hired people, we've trained people, and we've retained people. Now we look to the future. As we close today's session, let's hear JB Cutting's vision for their future.
Our business strategy is to hire the brightest and the best, cross-train, and continue to go in the direction that we've been going because we have been successful. So status quo, work your problems, get the good people in the right seat where they need to be.
So JB Cutting stands for today, we're all about growth, the growth mindset. Whereas we're always continuously moving. And growth doesn't always necessarily mean you know, we're going to be to 10 million or 12 million by this number. It's not about the dollar amount, but are you growing in profitability? Are you growing in educating your people? Are you growing in equipment and being able to be more efficient? You know, we're doing that stuff today, but what does that look like for JB Cutting in 3 to 5 years? It means moving the needle forward, moving the needle so that you're still doing the things you're doing today, but you're looking at it in the future. You're trying to set up your organization to what jobs will we have in 3 years? Okay, let's buy something that might do 2 or 3 different jobs. Let's invest in people that today you might be doing purchasing, but we're going to invest in you so that in 3 years, 5 years, you might be running a department or being a team lead on the floor or in the office. So we're constantly looking at people and equipment and how can that help us today, but also into the future as well. I would say our biggest secret to success is hard work. We just, between my brother and I, my dad, he started it, and then my brother and I, is just hard work. Like, we give it 120%. We like to win. And what does winning look like? Is it being the first one to do something? Not necessarily. It's not a dollar amount. It's just, do we all come to work every day, are happy to be here? Is it a nice environment to come to? Are you earning a decent wage? To me, that's success, that's happiness, that's winning, is when you're working towards that goal and you're achieving those goals year after year. You know, it's hard. Change is hard. You got to be willing to change. That's one thing my dad's taught us, is if you keep doing what you're doing today, tomorrow will be the same. You have to continuously change and adapt and move forward. So I think that's been our secret, is we just keep moving forward and working hard and surrounding ourselves with good people, people that can take us to the next level or the next new thing that we want to embark on.
Now that we've heard from them, let's evaluate your future. Our final poll invites you to do just that. Where will you target your growth over the next 5 years? In people, in technology, or in bottom line revenue? Thomas, this builds a little bit on where we've built the 3 days of the seminar on. We've talked technology, we've talked people, but obviously the bottom line and profitability is a significant driver in both of those things. Yeah. Any insights as to where our customers, whereas this group will be targeting their growth?
Well, I think the key thing about this, right, I look at these 3 categories as almost the 3 legs to a stool. Right? You need all 3 in order to be a productive and profitable business. And so I don't think you can take one away without keeping the other 2 and maybe focusing on one. You need to spread it out evenly. But I think, especially during this pandemic and during this past year, I think the bottom line is probably going to be people's most interest for the time moving forward.
Yeah, yesterday too, when we talked about return on investment and things like that too, it was interesting. They talked a bit about labor, but they talked about the biggest opportunity was in capacity growth, more capacity. So there are business opportunities, and they're seeking ways to really cost effectively, or you want to seize the opportunity and bring it to the bottom line. Obviously,
100%.
So we've got our poll results back. Where will you target your growth over the next 5 years in people, technology, or the bottom line? This is a fairly even split. Technology at 44%, the highest, and then an even split between people and bottom line revenue.
Yeah, so surprisingly wrong, which I think is a great thing. I think people are starting to look forward, which is a great thought process, right? You're looking at what piece of equipment or what data structure or what software do I need to get in place, but I am concerned about the people and the bottom line as well at the same time.
Yeah, the technology piece is interesting for me, because yesterday when we were talking about where our audience was from, kitchen cabinet industry was the highest represented. I think the furniture industry, closet industry, Millwork industries were among the highest,
Yeah.
and then flooring and a few others and such. But there are opportunities in those industries, and they are technology-driven industries.
100%.
So they know that this event, and it's talking about not only technology, but talking about people and the combination meeting the bottom line. I think that reinforces what we believe the need is that fits the opportunity. So.
Yeah.
So one of the things, Thomas, as we continue in this last segment is how do we see people and technology working together in the future? What's your insight?
Short answer is cohesively. I mean, it has to happen. As you just saw in the polls, right? The technology is the #1 thought in people's mind. Well, we still need people to make that technology work. It's not just going to work on its own, unfortunately. So we have to find a way to pair them together.
Yeah, and for us, in many cases, it's as simple as the machines don't work by themselves,
Yeah.
and the organization, from a production standpoint, has to work together as a cohesive unit. You called it
100%.
in order to bring the result out the door, but the company has to work together as a bigger cohesive unit to really get the impact of the bottom line and really be prepared for the future.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing, as we transition into tomorrow too, we'll be talking about even higher levels of automation, which require even better analysis in terms of return on investment and strategy. It becomes it's a big, we're talking about business strategy,
Yeah.
but a lot of it is around technology and people.
Yep.
So the question is there a harmonious relationship? It's like robots and AGVs, automatic guided vehicles, working together in the same plant. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. There has to be harmony. And as I mentioned before, right, we've got the scary millennials coming through, and then we've got the Gen Zs coming through. All of my generation, the generation after mine, has had a cell phone at their hand, or a tablet at their hand, or video games or something like that. That generation is going to want more to do, right? The traditional labor job within the woodworking industry is not going to suffice to attract those people into our industry. So by getting that technology into our industry is going to allow us to attract that new talent and for them to work hand in hand.
I'll never forget when I started in the business 30 plus years ago, somebody said to me I was entering a sleeper industry. Woodworking was not real well known or well respected. And he said things are going to be changing and you're in it at a good time. And it was like, I look back and it was absolutely true. But the same thing is absolutely true today. It 100%. Is still an opportunity industry, and that's the thing that we need to bring forward.
Yeah.
So at this time, we invite you to share any of the questions you may have related to today's subject of thinking people. Submit those in the questions tab on the right side of your webinar platform. We might not have time to answer every question, but we are excited to hear from you. So today's segments, if we recap, Thomas, for the folks, we talk about finding people, training people, retaining people, and growth.
Yeah.
And what's your thought as to where the questions might be coming from?
So first, I think this isn't just a one-stop shop, right? We can't just focus on one of these things. It has to be a cyclical process that we're implementing into our business.
Yeah.
Yearly, annual, I mean, daily, weekly. We have to put this in. But I do think some of the questions will come with, where do I start? It's very intimidating to start. So I would assume it would come from that aspect.
Well, and if we think about right today, they think about, can my people travel to training? Do my people need to do, is there online training or whatever? Is there some, because a lot of times too, we always talk about the combination of some classroom type training, but hands-on training and a lot of things we do. So I think people, are wondering, where do we maneuver? How do we go from here?
Yep.
So we have our first question is, okay, they say they don't have the ability to train in-house. Basically where we were going with this, where do outside training options start, or what is available to start?
The good news is they're not alone, right? Luckily, we've got a lot of industry resources within the woodworking industry that have either structured plans or have associations that have these topic boards or discussion boards that allow people to benchmark each other. When it comes to actual structuring and executing training, you've got companies like ourselves, like Stiles University. We've got I think we've been here for 30 plus years. We've had 40,000 plus students come through our facilities, everyone from the mom and pop shop around the corner, all the way up to the big office manufacturers that you work with day in, day out. But then there are also other resources such as like the Woodwork Career Alliance. And what they focus on is the actual structuring of the training. So they'll help consult you to fit your people and your businesses to make sure that you're upskilling your people or cross-training your people at the right rate and help you put that structure together.
And Thomas, we talked about yesterday too, we talked about the solid wood portion of the industry too. There's so many new technologies impacting the yield from solid wood, for example. If I use that as an example, and the idea of using scanning devices and automatic defecting devices to try to get the best yield out of the material is something that our industry has been working on for years.
Yeah.
But now you throw in the automation pieces, for example, and you throw in the people piece of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, can my people manage that level of technology? I'd love to have that in the solid wood segment of my business.
Yeah.
How can my people learn that, or where do we start?
Yeah, I think one positive thing is that the generations, as I mentioned, the generations coming up, they're comfortable with computers, right? They're comfortable with software and different types of applications on their phones and their tablets. So that training time is going to be a lot shorter than what we expected maybe 10 years ago. So I think that's the positive outlook. But then using your industry resources is going to be the best way to make sure that we're getting people up to speed as fast as possible.
Yeah. Here's another question that came in. So what is exciting about woodworking? How do I attract people?
Do you want me to take the first stab at this one?
Yeah.
So funny enough, I come from the automotive industry primarily, right? And I love the woodworking industry. And the thing that brought me into the woodworking industry is the diversity of it. I mean, there's industries within industries. And the other part that Jason actually mentioned within the videos is that you're putting something together, you're building something that's usually going into someone's home or someone's office, right? Which that feels good at the end of the day. You're making an impact in someone's life. And I think if you allow your future employees to know that, look, you're going to make an impact in someone's life or in someone's business, and allow them to be heard, it's a no-brainer why they wouldn't come to the industry, right?
So I love this too, from the office furniture perspective too. For example, we talk about how wood is a warm feeling, warm sounding material.
Yes.
It's like the reason metal file cabinets have gone away, partly because we don't file many things,
Yeah.
but it's like when you touch the place where you're hanging your backpack for the day, a wood cabinet, for example, feels and sounds different. There's something about wood, and that's a beauty of the material itself.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the environmental story also. There's tremendous developments. Our company and others are involved in working with the special automation for laminated building materials. They're talking about building 7-story tall buildings from only wood components.
It's crazy.
And so that's the kind of thing too that I think those who have who are driven by environmental opportunities and such too, it's a great material, and you combine the technology and such together. It's something I think we should be promoting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you for your questions. If you did ask a question today that we didn't have a chance to address on the air, please expect a post-event communication from someone here at Stiles. Thank you for joining us for day 2 of the Stiles Manufacturing Solutions online event, Thinking People. My name is Gary Wernlund, and I'd like to thank Thomas Allott for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
And I hope all of you can join us again tomorrow for our final day, Thinking Business Strategy. When was the last time you visualized the future state of your business? What role do production, automation, and people play in that future state? We'll drill deeper into what's possible tomorrow. We hope to see you then. Take care.